Excellent. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. It's early morning for Frank and I. But today we're just going to go through a little bit of what NetApp has to offer and how we can help handle your WVD VDI implementations. So some of the things that we would like to share is the fact that according to one analyst ESG infographic, 93% of VDI users are going to use a third-party service in order to optimize those deployments. We're finding that's the case regardless whether it's an on-prem or a cloud, hybrid cloud, or whatever cloud they may be in. And we're finding more and more that customers will stay in the utilizing a third-party service to help optimize their environments. So today we want to talk to you a little bit about VDS and what VDS can do. VDS is a SaaS delivered global control plane that handles the full spectrum of VDI management, deployment, and optimization. It starts out with the deployment automation. It can take a deployment environment from hours or days to minutes or hours to deploy. It does so through event-driven activities and optimization and automation. It also handles the entire user management stack, including images, security, group policies, things to that effect. It handles the entire application stack. And when I say entire, I mean entire, from the OS all the way through to the full-on application stack, and it manages it through one console. It handles resource and scaling optimization, and I'm going to show you some actual numbers that are pretty impressive on that. And it does that through a SaaS delivered global control plane. And yes, VDS does support an HCI environment running a vSphere N-1 release for that hybrid cloud environment. And it does support all three clouds. Now, I totally understand that we're talking about Azure today, but one thing that we found in the larger organizations, especially if they're global in nature, they're going to span different clouds because they don't want a single point of failure, or they have specific requirements in their environment or within their company that dictate that they have to sit on multiple environments. So we do want to point that out. And we're unique in the industry in that, because there's no other tools out there that can support all three clouds as well as all on-prem from one portal, from one SaaS delivered global control plane or single pane of glass. So here is just a high-level view of the WVD architecture and how VDS works with that. You have your WVD platform as a service area, and it has the WVD resting APIs in there, as well as your Azure AD environment. And VDS is the control plane that connects with the REST APIs for WVD, but it also has the management capabilities to manage your ADs. So it handles both. And it does have a local control plane in your WVD PaaS environment that handles things like it's basically a jump server, and it can handle things if there is a problem with connectivity or a connection problem. Maybe you have what we had in Texas this week, where we had a major storm and everything went down. I mean, they were out of power and everything for multiple days, and that does happen. We've seen it happen before. So it does have that local control plane that serves as like a jump server or a backup server to keep everything running and connected. And then VDS delivers simplicity. It's very unique in what it does. It has the automated deployment that's going to set up everything for your networks and your subnets, your storage policies, the compute layer, the entire user environment, all your applications, your images, everything, as well as all the security policies, and making sure you've got that AD connect and integration there. And then from there, and it does so with a series of just clicks. You go through an onboarding process, you put some information in, the information that's needed, and everything just works either concurrently or subsequently, depending on what the action is. So wherever possible, there are activities that are going to be happening concurrently and driving to a live environment. Then with the management is pretty amazing. What used to take maybe a couple days a week to manage your environment, you can do so with a matter of clicks and do it in minutes. And you can manage everything from your infrastructure, your storage, your OS layer, your application layer, all the user layers, apply updates, versions, the whole bit, and do so simultaneously with a matter of clicks, and everything is just done. It's an event-driven feature that utilizes machine logic and automation. And then we have a component that's called VDS sites. Now imagine you've got users that are connected maybe through job classification or work, job function. Maybe you've got a group of engineers that you want to manage those engineers all from one console as a single unit versus having to manage them by region. With VDS, you can not only manage by your entire environment, regardless of what region you are on, or if you are connected to another cloud for maybe BCDR or something to that effect. You can manage it all from one console, but you can also take subsets or supersets of those users and manage them as a single entity. So it breaks that hyperscaler limit and allows for unbounded logical groupings that can be grouped around multiple regions or multiple targets. And you can scale them out much easier and beyond the limits of that specific region by managing them in a site. Then we're going to talk about a little bit about how we can optimize that cloud. So all this automation really does a lot of work, and I'm going to show you that how it saves IT administrative costs, but we also optimize your cloud spend. So we have different capabilities that do that. One of them is the live scaling capability, which is a policy-driven resource, and basically it goes out and it views all the virtual machines that you have in your environment and makes sure that the density is right and that they're active. If they're not active, live scaling will shut down those resources so that you're not paying, or your customers are not paying, for cloud resources that they don't need. And then we have what's called a workload scheduling engine. And the workload scheduling engine is very powerful. You, based on your policies and the settings that you set up, you can say, okay, during 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., we need these resources. And in the morning and the first 2 hours, we need more resources for boot storms and login storms. Midday, we tend to find, after lunch, we tend to find that our resources are a little strapped, so we need to boost up those resources during that period for peak work hours. And then at the end of the day, we need to boost up resources for all of our logout storms. And it turns those resources on automatically, providing the resources that users need in order to stay functioning and working properly without any constraints or latencies. But then you've got people that may want to work late. I tend to be a night owl. I love to get up and stay up and work and get things done. I am definitely not a morning person. So for me, the wake on demand is pretty impressive, because when I go in and log in and want to use my resources late at night, Wake on Demand will override the workload scheduling engine and deliver the resources that I need at the time that I'm ready to log in and work, and do so automatically to meet my needs. And as soon as I log out, it releases those resources. So at any given time, resources are not being utilized. Resources that are not being utilized are shut down. So it saves you money. And the combination of those two, we have found and can quantify that they will save you up to 48% on just the cloud spend. And then if you factor in Spot, which is a huge product within NetApp, you can turn around and save additional funds on your compute later, because what Spot does is it goes out and it constantly evaluates the costing of the compute, the pricing of compute, and it will pull in those discounted compute sections, kind of like a Travelocity will give you the access to the most inexpensive hotel rooms that maybe weren't sold for the night. Spot goes out and looks for all of those discounted sessions, compute sessions, and it applies them to your environment at any given time. And when it comes up that needs to renew those sessions, if that session is not available at that cost at the next generation, Spot will go out and automatically find you another session that's in that range and apply it. And they can cut underlying VM costs by upwards of 90%. So then we've talked a lot about, we've talked about what VDS does, the high level work that, that VDS does, some of the details of how it works, and then the cloud spend. But what about the IT spend? So if VDS delivers all of this functionality so well and so quickly, logic would dictate that it would also potentially cut IT spend. So we've built out this ROI calculator, and it truly shows a high impact of how much you can actually save through this automation and machine logic. So let's say you've got an environment of 1,500 people, okay, and they can be whatever mix you need. And let's say you want to look at the model for, I don't know, 24 months. My mouse will work, and you're going to have it on Azure, obviously. This is the amount of money that you're going to save on administrative cost alone through VDS versus without. So doing everything manually, it would run out almost $4 million over a 24-month period. But with utilizing VDS, you're down to 1.5 million. So you're saving almost 2.5 million in just administrative costs. And that's huge. And this is, again, this is all done through the automation and machine logic and performing whatever tasks that can be performed automatically and concurrently, or if it can't be performed concurrently, it does so sequentially. But let's say we want to say, okay, let's say we're going to do a pilot of 250 users, okay? And we want to get this cost model down for 12 months and just see what it's going to look like for 12 months. Even for 12 months, you're saving over half of your IT administrative costs. Now, this does not take into effect cloud spend or any spend for, your compute component. We do have a cost estimator that you can go out and look at the cost estimator and see what you could save on your cloud spend with VDS, and I'll provide you that link in just a minute. But this is strictly just the admin cost. So imagine having somebody for 60 months, hold on, there we go, for just 100 users or 250 users. Now, what if I bump this up to 1,500 users? You can save $6 million over 60 months with 1,500 users, and you can have whatever mix that you need. That is a very powerful statistic or proven information, and we have this validated by an analyst, and they've done all the work on it, and it will be live within the next week. And I'm going to give you, at the end of the session, we're going to give you a QR code, and you can scan those 2 QR codes, and you can get to this information as well as other resources. But if you've got somebody that's, maybe you're looking at, you're migrating the rest of your users to WVD, or, you're looking to consolidate or migrate your entire environment, or your customer's looking to consolidate or migrate to WVD. This can show you just how much you want to save, how much you can save with that. And for those of you that are MSPs, you've got other resources and other technologies, as well as other tasks that you can provide to be able to provide additional resources on top of VDS, Virtual Desktop Services, to provide the best possible services for your customers at the best possible prices. So you can still turn around and make quite a bit of money with VDS utilizing it, but you can see how much you're potentially going to save or be able to save and pass on to your customers. So through the administrative costs. But what is VDS? What other products does VDS provide? Because VDS truly is an enterprise class product. And VDI is that enterprise class tier 1 environment now, tier 1 workload. But you've got a supporting cast around VDS that it helps enhance and further distinguish VDS and VDS's management of VDI as enterprise class. First of all, we've got the enterprise class or enterprise storage, advanced enterprise storage. And we're talking cloud volume services and ANF here. And they're fully managed, they're consumed by volume as capacity, it's resilient and secure. And we're going to show you a little bit of some of the features with CVS and just a little CVS and ANF with Frank in just a few short minutes. And then you've got global file cache. And what global file cache does is it distributes that VDI data management. It's a centralized management, but it caches out the data closer to where the users actually work. So it reduces the potential latency. It allows a single source of truth for the content. It utilizes that centralized data, so you've got centralized management, but it enables easy roaming capabilities as well as mobile and transient connection capabilities and accessing that data real time without latency problems. And then, you know, we all know that Microsoft does a great job at backing up their Azure environment, but the Microsoft 365 environment is strictly your responsibility. So why not have the access and resources to a product that will enable you to have your M365 data, whether that's SharePoint, Exchange, Teams, OneDrive, Office, whatever that may be, have that all backed up, and we have that integrated with VDS in that single pane of glass and that control plane. We have that so you can manage all of these things automatically from that single pane of glass, including the SaaS backup. And then, you know, you always want to monitor how things are going. You want to know the statistics. You want to have the analytics. You want to know that the infrastructure is running well. You want to be able to have visibility into your storage and how things are really working for you. And you want to be able to monitor and analyze your VDI environment, as well as optimize your resources, your compute, your storage, and networking. Well, Cloud Insights does that, and it gives you all of that information through a single pane of glass. It gives you all the information in a varied different screens, different tools, different reports, and it shows you real time exactly what's going on in your environment. That's integrated with VDS. And then we all know about GDPR and HIPAA and other security requirements and compliance requirements. Well, how about being able to have cloud compliance integrated into VDS so that you can manage and look at your privacy and compliance controls, see where there might be issues with non-compliance, or make sure that everything is compliant, and have that automatic reporting and alerting to you when there's something found that may not be compliant. All of these components can be managed through that VDS SaaS delivered global control plane and give you the functionality of handling all of this through a single pane of glass. And that's a very powerful resource for you. And then, you know what? It's all great, but what's reality? Well, university medical students they had Citrix environment on-prem and they wanted to move 500 users to WVD. They were having a hard time with it. They tried the native WVD. It was complex. They did not have the IT resources to be able to manage it. And they were going back to Citrix on-prem. Well, they went to a webinar. The powers that be went to a webinar at Microsoft and heard about VDS. And so they came to us and they said, hey, you've got 2 weeks. If you can get 150 users up and running in 2 weeks, we'll move. We did it in 2 days, got them up, got them live, got them running. And then they tried it in 9 days. They continued to work with it and utilize it and had onboarding and such and training through us. And within 90 days, they tripled that user count. And today their entire campus is utilizing WVD, and it's all managed centrally by VDS. So when we talk about the best of cloud from NetApp and we talk about VDI and enterprise scale, it truly is that complete environment, and we extend your data fabric to meet your needs across all of the platforms. We have on-prem worlds with all flash and FlexPod. We have your cloud storage capabilities with Azure NetApp Files, Cloud Volume Service, Cloud Volume ONTAP, and Cloud Manager. You have your ONTAP capabilities for your infrastructure storage, whether it's on-prem or in your cloud. And then to round that out, you've got your virtual desktop and your global file cache to extend that fabric for you and provide you the resources to have a very solid, streamlined means of handling your VDI environment. And then we round it up with your data protection, your compliance, and your resource management. And all of that truly delivers VDI at enterprise scale to you and or your customers. And with NetApp, we unlock the best of cloud by enabling this, all from one vendor. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Frank and let him show you our live demo. Frank, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Thank you very much, Cathi. I appreciate you going through all that for us. So let me get my screen shared here. Make sure I'm sharing the right one. All right. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for spending some time with us today. And for those of you, I'm sure that there's some that I've met, but those of you that I have not, my name is Frank Pulliam. I'm a senior solutions engineer here at NetApp. I am focused on 2 different products, virtual desktop service that we're going to talk about today, and then the virtual desktop managed service, which Cathi will actually talk about for a few minutes after I wrap up here. So for those that have been in the market and understand some of the players in the market, this solution was formerly known as CloudJumper. NetApp acquired about 9-10 months ago, and we really went to work at that point. We heard a lot of feedback from the community, and we really have worked hard to answer the feedback. And so the product that I'm going to show you today is actually brand new. It's our 6.0 version. It's going to look and feel very different from if you've seen the previous product before. This is going to look and feel a lot different and improved in a number of ways. Not only does it look nicer, which is great, it's got a lot more features, and it's also better performant as well. So I'm going to hop right into the software and get logged into the suite. As Cathi was mentioning, the control plane, or part of the control plane, is this web-based SaaS application that we can log into to manage everything around our implementations. Also, as she mentioned, one of the first things that I will point out is the capability for anybody that is a managed service provider or a partner that's looking to manage multiple customers. We've got multi-tenant management built right into the product. So you'll have all of your clients are kept in the single pane of glass. You can also extend this out as partners, and a partner in our software essentially is just an external entity. So we've got some providers out there that may be a master service provider, and then they've got smaller service providers underneath them. They can actually extend this control plane down to them, create them a partner account. They can log in and only see their clients that are assigned to them. We also have folks that use this in a co-managed solution. So perhaps you've got a customer where they want to provide some of the ongoing management, you can create them an account in here and through role-based access control, pare down exactly what they can see and what they can access in the software. But you can both be logged in from different aspects there. So that is something that we feel is pretty important in terms of our approach to the marketplace, is having that multi-tenant capability. Now, we are here to talk about Windows Virtual Desktop, obviously, but as Cathi went through, we do have support for other cloud environments because there are times when people need to leverage that in some capacity. And again, a beauty of our Virtual Desktop Service product is that we can easily add those environments into the single pane of glass and be able to manage them. Now, of course, they won't be running Windows Virtual Desktop if that's the case, if they're outside of Azure, but they will be able to run remote desktop services. And one of the great benefits here is that if you're trying to manage a customer A or environment A that is deployed into Azure with WVD, and then environment B that's deployed into Google or to AWS with RDS, the management of it, the workflow, the support workflow is nearly identical. And so that really makes it scalable in terms of trying to grow this out. So I'm going to touch on a couple of things around WVD management, but I'm actually not going to spend too much time on those because I want to show you where we add value outside of that. So the initial piece that I'll talk about around Windows Virtual Desktop is what we call our provisioning collections. And it's really just a fancy term for images. So we give you a simple way to come in here and to build your images, not only for WVD machines, or host pools, but also for any other virtual machine. And you're going to see that in our software here that we're able to manage all virtual machines, not just the WVD hosts. And what's nice is when we're building an image, we can select first the starting image that we would like to have. So by default, we're going to look at the Azure Marketplace images as well as the shared image gallery. And let me type in EVD there for Enterprise for Virtual Desktop. So I'm just sorting out the images that are made available by Azure. But yes, you will also have the ability to customize the image and save that and make that the starting point as well. So one of the things that we do, though, is once we have our image selected, you can also come in here and build out your applications that are going to be assigned to this image. Now I'm going to show you under the hood in a few minutes in our scripted events section where this comes to play, where it all comes together and what connects the dots in terms of pre-building your images with your applications. But you can see how simple this is to go through and make these selections. And then I'll show where this ties together in the scripted events in just a moment. And then working with an image, so you can see I've got two down here that are in the pending state. All right, and this means that they're not locked yet, and I can actually go into one of the images. I can connect right into the VM, make my additional changes that I would need, then shut the machine down, come back up, and validate that image. That's going to put it in a locked state and make it available, by which I can again use this for WVD host pool builds. I can also use it for any other virtual machine. And because this is locked, we can't make any changes to it. But what we do give you is the capability to very easily make a copy of an existing image that you can then go through that validation process again, lock the new one, and you utilize that. And then I'll show you in the host pools where we actually roll that out. So hopping down into the workspace. So just to kind of understand the flow here, organizations, for a single customer, there's only going to be one. There's probably only going to be one deployment, which is where are they deployed, and that's the plumbing and how our software talks into their environment. And then they would have a workspace, and the workspace is where all their stuff is. So users, groups, applications, WVD host pools, virtual machines, all the components that we're going to go through. So just to kind of wrap up on the WVD side, you'll notice that if I'm deployed into Azure, I've got this WVD button here, and this is where we make it really simple to come in and add a host pool. And this is the part that I think everybody would expect to see. If you're familiar with WVD, this is going to be old hat for you. So I'm not going to spend time in my allotted 20 minutes that I have to go through this, but I do want to point out a couple of key things. The first is, as Cathi was mentioning, our sites functionality. So back on the deployment area, you can actually set up a secondary or third site that you can then turn around and use. And what is a site? A site is going to be perhaps a different region where you have other desktops deployed. It might be a separate subscription. You've got other desktops deployed. And instead of allowing that to kind of sprawl out, what we did is we decided to make that easy for you by building in the site's capability. So now when I build a host pool, single pane of glass, I don't have to think about it. I just select which site that I want to use for this particular deployment. And I'll show you in just a second what this ends up looking like on the host pools. The other thing is perhaps you've got a location for this host pool that is going to be different for FS Logics. Maybe you want to customize the profile path for this particular pool. We'll give you the capability to do that. Everything else is pretty standard. I think you would expect to see from a WVD host pool build. Now, as I mentioned, I would show you the host pool section here. So notice that I am seeing, even though these are in two different sites, two different regions, I am seeing the host pools in a single pane of glass. It's much easier for me to manage this way. And going into a host pool, the last thing I'll talk about around WVD is the ability to manage the session host. And you're going to find this, again, back in the virtual machine section when we get there. But I can take all kinds of administrative actions against these machines. I will touch on backup in just a second. I can reboot a machine, clone it, connect right to the console of the machine, add and delete. I can take it out of the pool temporarily if I need to, start and stop, of course. So, and the other thing I can do is easily manage the app groups and how the experience is delivered to my users, whether that's going to be a full desktop, remote app, or both. And then the last piece is the active users component. So this is handy because it shows us all of the users that are logged in and active with a current desktop. And we've got a couple of feature sets in here around being able to log them off if we need to, which will give them a 10-minute timer to get off the machine and log back in if you would like. That can be very helpful if you are doing some troubleshooting. Maybe you've got a machine in the pool that is acting up and you want to take it out for a while. So this gives us an easy way to notify the user they need to log off, and then within 10 minutes, it will log them off. So I'm gonna hop back over now to the bigger workspace and show you a couple things in here outside of because at the end of the day, you don't just simply set up Windows Virtual Desktop and you're done. You're actually trying to provide an end user computing platform to the users, to the customer, or to the end users. And so there are some helpful things in here around doing that. Part of it is support. So for example, I've got Chester Tester right here. He's logged on to this machine. I can see that. In fact, I've got this pulled up on my machine. There's Chester Tester's virtual desktop logged in. And Chester calls in and needs some support. So I've got some capabilities in here around this. And this is just working directly with the Active Directory account. You can see that I can assign applications to Chester. So I can apply a desktop application policy where I can assign these apps and control the delivery of that. I can log in and kill processes that are running under the account of Chester. But let's say, for example, Chester needs some support directly on his virtual desktop. So your help desk is going to have a quick ability, and actually I'm using the wrong URL for that, but I'll have the quick ability to then shadow the user's connection in the software. Going a step further, we can manage centralized Windows firewall rules. So this is really, really handy because as you're editing and making changes to Windows firewall rules, they can get really unwieldy. This is very helpful to be able to see all of this in a centralized location. We do the same thing with storage. So if you've got SMB folder shares that you want to work with and make changes to, you've got the capability to do that here in the software. And again, this can be really, really helpful for the help desk, for frontline staff to come in and make quick changes and do it in a safe way. They aren't putting them into NTFS where you can really mess things up if you're not sure what you're doing. And so we want to provide them the capabilities to do that. And as I mentioned earlier, we don't just manage WVD session hosts, we can manage any machine. So for example, here is a data server that I've created. Now, a couple of things. on each of the VMs where we are managing them, I mentioned earlier backups. So what we have in here is the capability to set up at the click of a button a backup schedule and retention policy. Now you may ask, what are we using as a backup? So because we're deployed in Azure, we're going to use Azure Backup. It's automatically going to configure the account for you and all the policies and allow us to then just configure this as needed. If we were deployed into Google or AWS, we use snapshots in those environments. It also gives us the capability of doing a single click restore to a VM or to a disk. So this really makes life a lot easier if you're going to want to leverage the backup piece. The other thing that we do, as Cathi alluded to, we have a product called Cloud Insights, which is an infrastructure monitoring, reporting, and alerting software. So we have an integration now with that. And with this integration, not only can we pull in this performance information and be able to report on it, and Cloud Insights has its own dashboard that has a lot more functionality. We're just looking at this through the virtual desktop lens and what we need to accomplish. We can also do the same thing with the storage performance and storage usage. So this is something that you're going to see a lot of announcements around this, because having this information in the product is sort of the first step. And then there are some really cool things that we're going to be able to do with that information from an automation and self-healing standpoint. And then the last piece before I talk about optimization for a couple of minutes was the scripted events. So remember that when I was talking about the applications and being able to assign those to an image or to a user, but the actual installation piece of this. So this is an area in the software where you've got two sets of scripts. Okay, you've got your global scripts that we actually help procure and make available to you. You can use these scripts, copy them down into your environment, make changes to them. There's lots of default application installs, uninstalls, update scripts, maintenance scripts, things that make your life easier. And of course, you can bring any script you would like. So as long as it's a Windows language based script, upload it in here. But that's not where we don't just simply make it easy to run scripts. What we do is we can automate these activities. And this is the important part, because based upon the way that VDS is set up, we can take a script. In this example, I've got a compress FS Logix profile container script. And I probably am going to use this as a scheduled function. That would make sense. And I'm a big fan of doing that. But we've got other event types that we can trigger on. So for example, application install. Remember when I selected the applications on the image build, that's where I can tie this together with an install script via this selection of the application install event type. And that will automate that process for me. A couple of other popular use cases here: create server. So every time I create a virtual machine, maybe I want to automatically install antivirus on it, or I want to automatically install some type of a management agent on it. This gives us the capability to make that happen. And another one that is used quite popularly is create user and delete user. So on every delete user, for example, you probably want to either delete or archive their user profile. We can connect the dots here by using this as the event type, and then have a script that will take care of that profile deletion or archive. So lots of power built into the scripted event section. We actually do a whole 60 minutes on this one module if for folks that are interested in that. So I'll wrap up here with my last 90 seconds that I have around some features that help with the automation. So some of the things that Cathi was talking about. So with optimization, everybody I'm sure understands you have horizontal scaling that you need to address, and you have vertical scaling that you need to address. So horizontal, meaning in this picture, adding machines right or left, adding machines or deleting machines. Vertical, meaning turning machines on or off. So the way that this plays out in our software is really, really simple. And that's what I like about it. So I'm going to pop in here. I'm going to show you first the horizontal scaling capability within VDS. So if we want to add machines to the host pool or delete machines, by default, we just set it as fixed. That means you set the machine size type, and it's going to keep the host pool, everything in line. It's not going to change those machines outside of this. But let's say, for example, I'll give you the most popular use case here, which is user count. So when I select user count, what that means is that it's going to factor based upon the number of users that are assigned to a host pool. And I simply just come in here and say what resources do I want to assign per user? So maybe I want to set up 4 gigs of RAM and 1 CPU per user. I want my machine size type to stay small. So I'm going to say a 32 gig of RAM and 8 CPU machine. And what will happen is VDS will calculate for us the number of users that can fit on the server, and based upon the number of users assigned to the host pool, the number of servers that we will need. I click apply, and that will happen automatically for me at the next maintenance cycle. And it will keep it in line as the needs change over time. So as I add users to the pool or delete users from the pool, the resources needed are going to change. VDS will take care of all that for you. The other type of scaling that we're going to talk about for a second here is vertical scaling. So Cathi mentioned this a little bit. We give you 2 capabilities here. One is a scheduled based function where we can turn the host pool on and off at certain times. You can couple this with our wake on demand functionality. So let's say a user's host pool is turned off. They actually have the ability to power them. There's a self-service function they can power that back on themselves. But let's say you want to use a more dynamic approach to scaling a multi-session pool. So here's live scaling. Live scaling, as you can see, very, very simple to set this up. So I'm going to say, okay, I want my live scaling to occur when a host hits 3 users, and I want to cap the machine out at 6. I don't want to put any more than 6 users on a particular machine. And notice that I can do this at a global level, or I can do this at a host pool level as well. So if I set it up like this, the way that this plays out, if I look back over here at my graphic, so by default, we'll leave the 1 machine on in the pool. And you can customize this further if you want this to be off, or if you want to have more than 1. But at a basic level, users will start to log in. When it hits that threshold, so in my case, it was 3 users, you can see it powered on number 2. This will just continue dynamically, machine by machine by machine. Okay, so there is no schedule to have to guess at. There is no setting up or turning machines on unnecessarily. It's going to simply respond to the dynamic event. And then, of course, we can fill each of the machines up with the users. And you can probably all guess this. When the last user logs off of a host, it's going to then power that machine down until it is needed again. So very, very efficient, and allows us to, again, really drive down the cost of the compute of these host pools to a really, really significant level. The other thing that we have the capability to do, and this is something that's being built into the product, so this is a little bit of a roadmap feature, but it's been shared in other Microsoft circles, so I'm going to share it with you guys. So with Azure NetApp files, which is the best practice solution for your FS Logic storage, we are implementing something called volume shaping. So with ANF, you have 2 mechanisms by which you control the performance. The first is the tier, standard, performance, or ultra. Unfortunately, you can only change that tier 1 time in a 7-day period. So that is kind of off the table in terms of volume shaping of the performance. What we can do, however, the other half of the performance story is the size of the pool. The larger the pool, the more bandwidth and IOPS you get. So what you can do is adjust the schedule for volume shaping in order to meet your use case. So for example, here's a shift worker change at 7 o'clock in the morning and again at 5 o'clock at night. We can have volume shaping ramp up and meet that demand at that period of time and then ramp back down. So instead of having to pay for the full performance all the time, we simply pay for what we need when we need it. Same thing if you've got office hours during the middle of the day and you find that your users are utilizing the storage all day long, we can accommodate for that as well. So some very cool things happening here. Wish we had more time to go through and do a more deep dive. Cathy's going to share with you some additional information as well as how you can contact us to then get more information. We can do a one-on-one and go much deeper in the software and some of the capabilities with you, and we're happy to do that. So Cathi, I will hand it back over to you.
Excellent. Thank you. And let me share my screen. So one thing I forgot to mention, when you go through that ROI calculator I showed you earlier, You can print off, click on select report, and it'll send you a PDF of the full report of what you tested, the information that you got. So you can see that information and maybe present that to the powers that be if necessary. Now, since we're talking about WVD and such, and we've talked about VDS and had a great demo from Frank, I want to talk to you about a managed service offering that we have with within NetApp, that for those of you who maybe have an environment where you've decided that you want to go ahead and outsource the capabilities of VDI or JAS and have it a fully managed solution. So we have what's called VDMS. It's Virtual Desktop Managed Service. And it is a fully managed service. All you need to bring are your apps and your users. And the nice thing about it is it's turnkey. There is it utilizes the Cloud Volumes products, ANF or CVS. It's fully managed for provisioning, orchestration, and security. We bring in Azure Defender, as well as Azure BNC for the security component, as well as the fact that it's single tenant for each customer. Each customer has their own tenant, and it reduces the risk management because you have people that can manage this at any given time. We have brought analytics. We've brought in that Cloud Insights component. It right sizes through our live scheduling and our workload scheduling, or live scaling and workload scheduling engine. All you really need to bring in is your M360 subscription. You don't have to have additional cloud resources and such there. You don't need to deal with the cloud infrastructure or the storage infrastructure or any kind of infrastructure administration. We take that on for you, and you've got the freedom to bring in your own applications. As I said, VDMS is that truly managed, fully managed environment, and all you need to bring in is are your users and your apps. So why is this a priority? Why is this a value? Well, think about it. You've got customers, or maybe you've got you're working in an environment that needs to ramp out their VDI environment. Maybe they threw a short-term fix on the wall, thinking that they were going to be able to manage their remote users last year when everything went a little nuts with our pandemic. But you're realizing now that what you thought would be a short fix is not going to be a short fix, and you really need to go into a longer-term solution. And VDMS may be that right offering. Maybe you're an MSP or an ISV, and you want to offer virtual desktops for your customers, but maybe you don't have enough infrastructure yet, or you need to ramp up more internal competency and resources in your administrators. But you want to go ahead and need to go ahead and offer it now. This is a perfect solution for you. Or maybe you need to support a global environment and be able to ramp up users very, very quickly, but you just don't have the infrastructure yet. Well, VDMS is a great option for you. And it leads in the industry. It is enterprise scale. It delivers VDI at enterprise scale for you. It's got an enterprise scale infrastructure with the best cloud storage capabilities and infrastructure available. It utilizes VDS. It's powered by VDS, so you get that always on control plane. So for the management, and it allows you to go in and look at things as well. You can look at some of the analytics, and the nice thing about it is it's totally pre-engineered and pre-integrated for that global hyperscale footprint. It gives you the highest possible performance and availability. It's scalable, performant. You can scale out as much as you need to, and utilizing the components of VDS with live scaling and workload scheduling engine, you can protect yourself, or we can protect yourself against boot storms, login storms, and we manage all of that for you. We take all that risk, and you don't have to worry about it. It has data protection already built in, and we always get consistent monitoring and alerting if there's a problem. We can help if there's issues. You do all this through SaaS data protection because it brings in SaaS backup for M365. And you've got a 24/7 world-class support system there. They're highly skilled specialists that manage this all the time. They handle the onboarding and they train your teams for any management that you need to do. And your customer support team is available around the clock. So what does the journey look like? Okay, I need fully managed virtual desktops. VDS is unique because it delivers that at a flat rate. You don't have variable rates every month. If you need GPU machines, you have them. If you need straight VDI machines, you have them. If you need shared machines, you have them. We even have additional offerings for business servers. If you need a business server for some kind of database or something to that effect, or additional storage, you have that capability. It's turnkey. It includes all the provisioning and orchestration and security. And we take the risk. You get the performance, we take the risk. We protect your M365 accounts and data. You leverage enterprise class storage. You've got broad scale analytics, and you can bring your own apps. You don't need additional cloud resources. You don't need additional cloud infrastructure management. We take care of all of that for you. And you've got your services and onboarding, your 24/7 support. And there are resources there that can help you and train you on your user identity and management, as well as the upgrading of your applications. And it does all that for a flat rate per user per month. And that is VDS delivers DAS at enterprise scale. We talked a lot about a lot of different things with VDS and VDMS. We talked about the SaaS delivered global control plane for the management, enterprise class management of your VDI environments. We're unique in the industry because we are able to provide true private, public, and hybrid cloud VDI management. We can manage your entire hybrid multi-cloud environment. We can deploy, manage, and optimize your VDI environment simply and easily, as well as economically. And we can offer a fully managed virtual desktop, Windows virtual desktop environment. And all you need to do is bring your users and your applications. But let's add something else on here. Right now, for everybody that is in WVD, there is a promo going on right now until the April 25th of 2021. You've got two options. If you select VDS from the marketplace, you can get it for $6 per user per month. However, if you also select 4 terabytes of NetApp files, Azure NetApp files, premium, you can get that down to $3 per user per month. The MSRP is about $8 per user per month. So you can really save some money here. And you can do so with as few as 400 users. And again, you pay for 4 terabytes of Azure NetApp files premium. For a co-seller or a other option, if somebody in the team is a co-seller, they also get the IP, they get the co-sell IP. They can drive multiple high numbers of users and they get paid. The details, there's a minimum of a 1-year term and no charge for the first 90 days of VDS. Deals must be co-registered, and the option, the $3 option, is not public pricing. It has to go through the marketplace. So next steps, what do I do now? Learned a lot, like what I'm seeing. What do I do? Well, you know what? Maybe you want to try it. And if you look at that first QR code up in the upper right-hand corner, that will link you right to a sandbox that allows you to try VDS in a sandbox environment for the next 30 days. There's also a shortened link for you, but I'm going to throw in a sweetener here. For all those who sign up for the sandbox by Friday, February 26th, at 5 p.m. local time, you're going to be registered for a prize. And once we get all those people that have signed up for a sandbox, we're going to take all those and we'll send out a prize for that. Your next step, your next call to action. You want more further information? Okay, no problem. Email Microsoft@netapp.com. We've got a queue of people there that'll help you out, get you to that next level, and really help you get more information, get more pricing, get whatever you need to be able to launch your VDI environment. And then if you want to research more information, look at some of our case studies, look at the Azure cost estimator. Not a problem. You can either scan that lower QR code, or you can go out to netapp.com, cloud.netapp.com/virtual desktop service Azure. And that'll take you directly to the Azure page where virtual desktop services are listed. And with that, we'd like to thank you for joining us today. And don't forget, if you need any help, we're here to help you. And NetApp does unlock the best of cloud.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cathi and Frank, for presenting and for sharing this, and also the great offerings you had in the end there. So everyone take that opportunity to try it out. It's really cool to see how NetApp has been able to bring the entire story together with the different offerings they have within the virtual desktop service. So take that opportunity, and thank you for being part of WVD TechFest. And if you like, please add your contact details in the chat, so the Q&A, if you like. Otherwise, we will ensure to share your contact details and so on after the event too. So thank you so much for being part of the event.